Welcome to Gooder Stories, where strategy meets heart. I'm your host, Gail Hataitham, founder of Gooder Creative Studio. In this season, we're exploring the theme Small Team, Big Impact, how lean, passionate teams create lasting change in their communities. In each episode, I sit down with changemakers from across Canada's nonprofit world to uncover how they achieve big results with limited resources. This podcast is here to help you share your story with more clarity, creativity, and confidence. Today, I'm sitting down with Joanna Tschudy, a woman who's deeply, literally rooted in the land. Joanna is the Community Hubs Coordinator at the Alex Community Food Center here in Calgary, where she works to connect people with good food, green space, and each other. She also wears a second hat as Community Engagement Coordinator with the Calgary Horticulture Society. And if that weren't enough, she also runs her own landscape design practice, helping homeowners and communities grow food and drought-tolerant gardens. What I love about Joanna's story is how all of it connects. The soil, the community, the table. Today, we're going to talk about what it really takes to do meaningful food and land-based community work, how she communicates that work to people from all walks of life, and what she's learned about showing up for a community with both hands and hearts. Joanna, welcome to Good Stories.
Thank you, Gail. What a beautiful introduction. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you.
You're welcome. So happy to have you here today. So let's dive into the questions. Your background is in landscape design and horticulture. What led you to work at the Alex Community Food Center?
That's a really good you've asked. This one was interesting because it took me back in time. So before my life before the Alex, and when I immigrated to Canada, I was a new mother and I didn't have family here. So my social circle shrunk hugely when I first came. I had heard kind of roundabout through a friend that about her work at the Alex Community Health Center. And I thought, well, I'd never heard of it. I was curious more about what she was doing on a day-to-day basis with her work and just the passion that she felt for what she got to do for a living was just really contagious. And I just thought, I want to know more. So I looked up the Alex, and at that time they were starting to open. They were laying the groundwork for the Alex Community Food Center. And that really caught my eye because I just grew up in the garden with my mom, and my grandma and my aunties were all amazing gardeners. I grew up in a rural part of northern Michigan. So food and orchards and gardens, everyone had a garden in the winter, people hunted. There's just food everywhere. The land is food. And so I started to come to the Alex as a volunteer at first. And it was really nice. On the website, it said, come and volunteer in our garden. And when I got here, there was no garden, just a parking lot and a big building that was beautiful inside, but lots going on outside as well, sort of in the planning phase. And so I jumped right in. I just worked in the kitchen spaces and helped with the food service programming, the food access programming. I started to just kind of put it out there that I love to garden. And, they were just opening doors here, and that was 2016. And so I was able to kind of ease my way into the garden skills coordinator role. After having been a volunteer for a while, I applied for that role and I got it. And it was lovely to be able to sink in a little bit deeper into this community at the Alex. And I learned so much about working for a not-for-profit. This is the first time I'd ever done that. I learned about some of the older, more historical neighborhoods in Calgary, getting a real good feel for what Forest Lawn is all about in the surrounding neighborhoods, learning about kind of that western settlement of Calgary and how folks would come in from Strathmore and Chestermere and all around. And this was sort of an entry point for a lot of people coming into the city. And then having that privilege of learning that as an outsider, as an immigrant, and then working here now. So becoming part of people's everyday lives when they come in to either access a meal or go to our market or come in for our cooking programming or garden programming, or coming in to learn how to advocate for everybody to eat really well and often to eat together. Long story short, that's roughly how I kind of came in. And now my role has changed a couple more times. I most recently was the Community Hubs coordinator, but I've just within the last week changed to the Urban Food Systems coordinator. So this is my new role.
Yeah, thank you for that. I didn't realize that your role just changed.
Yeah, it just just happened last week, so I need some new business cards.
So can you tell us a little bit more about maybe your past role or like your current role and how that kind of looks like day to day for you?
Yeah, I think having come from the background of horticulture, gardening, food growing, I'm just steeped in it. And it's really hard for me to even talk differently than the way somebody who works directly with the soil and with growing food would. So when I came in as the community hubs coordinator, I had a little time in between where I stepped away from the garden skills coordinator role and worked in the landscape industry again, nurturing a good relationship around education and community engagement with the Horticultural Society here in Calgary, and then also launching my own business. So that was COVID times, and that's what kept me busy and had a good focus and still maintaining good positive interaction out in the larger world. And then coming back as a community hubs coordinator, my analogy is that it's like I garden people. So nobody gets pulled out or anything or, transplanted. It's more like when you think of different areas in a garden needing different things at different times. And so you might notice certain things or notice patterns or just directly be asked for some support, and I'm able to connect people to resources that allow them to thrive where they are or to move into a better situation, or to be able to advocate for their lives to stay on the track that they're intending. And it's the community hubs role is really wonderful because it's got great support from United Way. It's a city initiative as well, so it's this beautiful partnership with some big hitters, and there's 6 sites across the city that have that support, and we're one of them. And when I think back to moving here in 2007, I sure wish I knew about the hub sites. I don't think things were really going at that time, but this is a 5-year initiative and it's kind of nearing the end. But yeah, so that's how I've come to know that role, is that I get to see these beautiful things happening in community, and I can sort of align with different things that make sense for the Alex Community Food Center. So an example of that would be there's a community grant called Activate GFL. So that's been a long-standing grant. It's taking a pause this year, but we're able to find resident leaders that are working on projects that just need that little bit of financial support and help them bring their ideas to life. Often it happens right here in our kitchen or in our garden spaces, or they're out in the community keeping those connections with food or community organizing, resident leadership. Those things are just really strong and thriving. I tend to follow projects or lean into projects and organizational friendships, some different partnerships that do start from the ground, often like urban farm sites, like Highfield Regenerative Farm. There's another site that we're good buddies with the Land of Dreams, and then places like the Inglewood Community Garden and the Confluence Garden and many more. There's lots of different places that we get our hands on the soil, but the connecting theme is that it's all around growing food and community. Like one doesn't happen without the other. And it's beautiful to see how all of that happens at each unique site, and then to pull it together either into collaborative programming or support for solo standing programming at each site, or just building relationships across sites. And so we get to see these like corners of Ward 9 come alive, and also honor the green spaces and the growing spaces in Calgary that are really flourishing, that are really drawing a beautiful community to them. It's nice to be part of the family. And so I just sort of feel like I get to go hang out with people that feel more like cousins than anything else. So my role is to steward those relationships, to find that mutual beneficence, and to also all the while sort of create stories around what we're doing and why it's important. And so that people can see that clear line from putting seeds in the ground and teaching a gardening class right on through to like supporting culinary art skills, just sort of weaving that story so that people, all stakeholders, can understand what we're doing.
Yeah, really cool role, connecting all the dots and kind of putting the puzzles together. So the Alex CFC talks a lot about dignified access to food. What does that look like in practice? And from where you sit, like what does it actually take to create that experience for people? And what do you see that gets in the way of it?
It's a really beautifully crafted question. And I love getting to talk with you because these are things we don't often get to explore, even though, my team and I were always thinking about these things when we're creating programming or delivering programming or even just interacting with community members that come. But we don't often get to explicitly say. So I appreciate these questions, especially dignified access to food. It just gets me thinking about dignity to begin with. And it can be a relative term, but I think for me, how I relate it to what I do on a daily basis is that dignity is being open to the world, but not losing yourself in the process, not having to compromise. There's a lot of traveling through that feeling. It's when you bring feeling into programming can be a little bit difficult to define that and stick with the right best practices. I guess it's helping folks understand that you are not the situation that you find yourself in. Of course, decisions lead us all to where we are, but there's so many external factors that play a role, and we don't always understand these as we may struggle through different scenarios. And everybody finds themselves in thicker water than they were anticipating at times. And so if you're moving through that stronger current, it's just understanding that it's a thing that is happening to you and around you, and understanding where your identity can come through and either influence, inform, interact with what's happening in your particular situation. And just knowing that it doesn't define who you are. It just defines your lived experience, and that is essentially creating wisdom. So everybody who comes through the door carries a gift with them. And I often feel like it's my job to just help them feel comfortable in a way that they can share that gift or express that gift or even just recognize it themselves. It's like super powerful for me. It's just open doors during, let's say, a community meal. Doors are unlocked. People are welcome to come in. There's no prerequisites. And then when they do come in, it's a little different than what people might expect. It's kind of like a restaurant, but we don't charge for the food. And then there's one thing on the menu, and we do have volunteer servers, but we do invite people to come through and help themselves to a coffee or a tea, for example. And so when you do that, we have a collection of mugs, just like at my house. They're all mismatched and they're like all our favorites, and they've come through donation or they've been collected with love. And so you can just pick which one speaks to you. They're not all the same. You can make your own coffee, tea, however you like it, and then you go find a spot where you want to sit. And it can be daunting because you might not know anybody, or maybe you want to meet new people, but it's always a room has capacity for about 180 people. So there's a lot of room for people to come through and socialize. Yeah, I think so. That dignified access to food is just helping people bring their whole selves and be accepted and welcomed. And then um, to just know that everyone's accountable to one another, to ourselves and to one another. There's a responsibility. There's a culture that's nurtured here. It's very, very open, but very forward in that we all have rights and also bring responsibility. So we all have this work to do together. We have a big saying over our kitchen. It says, good food is just the beginning. And I look that way because I can see it out the window here, but it is just the beginning. And every step as you move through your relationship with food, there should be choice. And so that's another piece of dignity that's really important, is that people have autonomy and they have choice, and that they recognize they have power. They have things that they have to offer as well. And we're really interested in those things because it can lead to some beautiful programming. Even if it's recipe sharing or story sharing around the table, that's where we keep the dignity kind of forefront in the work that we do.
Yeah, that was beautifully put. Thank you. So, like the Alex Community Food Center has so many programs. One of them is the Fresh and Fair Community Market. And I heard that it just made its first anniversary. And the community members have saved over $32,000 compared to mainstream grocery prices. That is huge. So how do you tell that kind of story to people who never set foot in the space before?
The market is such a beautiful program that we run here. It's been through a few different iterations, so it hasn't been this perfect creation from the start. It's been an evolution for sure. And where it sits right now, I think the team has a lot to be proud of. We worked really hard to put the right people in charge of things. And man, passion really leads the market for sure. It's such an important part of food access for us. It goes beyond the community meals. It is a cash market, so there is payment required for, there's purchasing in the market. So people that come through pay subsidized prices. So the market is heavily supported financially. We're able to use that support to keep our prices quite low. It's always below retail value. And the beautiful part of the market and that story that goes out, even if people have not experienced it themselves, has to do with all the invisible pieces. And so it makes it a little bit harder to bring that story into light. Like we can say things like we've got our reporting where we can say how much money was saved or how long it's been running or how many customers were served or how many times we've reused the egg cartons. Like we're trying to reduce waste and increase access. But the part of the story that I love, it's like, again, I'm such a gardener, Gail, I can't help it. But when you see a beautiful plant growing, you see the above ground portion and you're like, wow, those flowers smell amazing. And you're just totally drawn to it and it's amazing. But the reason that plant is so vibrant and well nourished is everything you can't see. It's all below ground, and the market is that way. So the roots that go down from the market go really far. They grow right into the ground where we are, and they grow down the hill to our other green partner sites, and they grow all the way out regionally and provincially and across Canada. So what that looks like on the ground is we are purchasing locally grown seasonal produce from our urban farm sites. This is a beautiful part of the work I get to do, is to nourish those relationships. So direct market sales to the grower. So they don't need to market themselves. There's no middleman. There's no distributor. We deal directly with the grower. And these are often people like myself at one time. They're new to Canada. They come with a ton of knowledge about how to grow food. They're adapting it to Calgary because Calgary is not an easy place to grow food compared to some places people come from. And they're doing it. They're doing this beautiful food production, and they have more than they could possibly share with their families and communities. And they're now in this beautiful process of becoming market gardeners. And so we give them the market, and it's amazing. You couldn't get fresher produce unless you picked it right outside our door. And sometimes that produce comes into the market, but we usually use our garden produce for programming, cooking and gardening classes. And then we've got beautiful donations that come through from the Inglewood Community Garden, from the Confluence Garden. So these are, again, local harvests. They're picked either the day of or the day before. So again, fresh, locally grown produce, grown with love, grown right in community, and brought right to our door. So couldn't get better than that. We also partner with people that are running legit farm businesses like Highwood Crossing with their grains. That's a grain farm just south of Calgary and all around southern Alberta. We work with a southern Alberta farm distribution called Gallinax. So they're receiving produce, eggs, all kinds of farm products directly from Alberta farmers and growers, and we link through them. We try to support Indigenous growers anytime we can. For example, we get our wild rice and pemmican beef jerky treats from Indigenous Manitoba growers. It's a family-run business. It just feels like the right thing to do to support people that are working in this way as directly as possible. It's a real trick if you're a city person, a city resident, to just live off the land. And that can be an expensive thing, or that can just challenge our diets because it's a lot of root veggies in the winter. And that's, it's a lot of time put in. So we also do purchase wholesale produce. We try to honor the seasons. That's what makes up the market. And what's beautiful, the last and probably the most important piece of the market that is invisible, or we want it to stay not invisible, but we want it's sort of the unsung hero of the market. The reason that we can do this is that when you start to build these local connections to growers and directly to the land where they're working and they're being paid a fair price and they're able to carry on their beautiful businesses, we're seeing funders and other stakeholders really, really curious about that. So it's taking support that we've seen in the past for meal access, or food access, I should say, and it's adding another layer. It's adding this sort of further evolution where the values of some of these sites where we're growing the food or accessing the food to begin with really align with what the family foundations or other nonprofits or corporate donors are looking for. That's something that's really true to their core and their legacy that they're building. And so it's this beautiful, finally, like this really nice alignment where funding and the mission of our market are really sort of twining together. And it's helping us keep those prices low for everyday shoppers. And it's become a really important point for a lot of people that come to the food center.
What a cool program. That's impressive. And I do love all your gardening analogies you use. That's just beautiful. So the Alex serves some of Calgary's most diverse communities. So has that shaped how you communicate or changed what you thought good communication looked like? Or have there been moments where you realized that the way you were showing up just wasn't connecting? And what did you do differently?
Yeah, I mean, as alive as the gardens and the programming that we offer, as responsive as all that, or as responsive as we need to be in all of that, that's also very true in the way that we communicate with community and the way we listen to community, because I think maybe a big part of communication that gets sort of like shoved off the edge of the desk is listening. So engagement is number one. And again, I keep finding myself in these roles where I'm doing a lot of listening. And so how lucky am I that I get to be right in those conversations and able to ask questions and then just sit and soak in what the responses are. All of our programming has come from asking the community. This center used to be a restaurant, a couple different kinds of restaurants. So people knew this building as a restaurant type setup. And then here we are still doing food, but in a really different way. And so how are people finding it? What do they think about it? Are they interested in it at all? Do they feel like we belong here? So there's a lot of engagement before even the site was selected. And I think one of the beautiful reasons that we are here is the community said we want this. And also this community, the Greater Forest Lawn communities, which essentially stretch from like Memorial Drive down to Pagan, and then like Stony Trail, east side over to Deerfoot. So it's like 12 larger communities. The services are here because the need is here as well. There's just a ton of strength in history, but there's also still gaps in those communities being as healthy and amazing as they can be. We also listen, we're here now. What do people want? Like, what do they want to learn? What do they want to learn about? And our programming is quite responsive in that way as well. So when we first opened the doors, some of the earliest food skills programming there's a class called International Ave Cooking. So 17th Avenue, where we're located, is also called International Avenue because there's so many amazing family-run, locally owned and operated restaurants. You can eat around the globe. If you just take a trip down 17th Avenue, so many flavors and food experiences to be had here. And so people that would sign up for this class would come as participants and they would share a recipe that meant something to them. And so we're able to like honor the legacy of our actual site and draw in what people, not only what they are asking for, but what they have to share. I think one thing that I'm always sort of keeping an ear towards, or all my senses towards really, is whose voice haven't we heard, or who isn't coming through the doors, who isn't here. And that's not to say that everybody has to come here. It's just, who are we missing? How is our engagement needing to grow or open up? And so, I mean, we do that by always knowing that there's things to lean into. And so we're in constant engagement with the community, with our partner sites. We try to just be sure that if you come through the door, you feel welcome no matter what. It's so we do that and we have translation services. We serve foods that are also from around the globe, not just in the international app cooking, but when you come in, if we're serving meat, unless it's wild game or the occasional serving of pork, it's always halal. If you're not eating meat, we always have vegetarian, often vegan options. We have dairy free, gluten free. We really know our community members and their food allergies, especially. We want everyone to feel safe and loved and well fed, just nourished on every level when they come through. We try to have room for families. We've got our Monday night family dinner is a beautiful example of that. It's a community meal geared directly to families. So anyone 18 and younger with their favorite adult or adults, however, whatever that looks like for them. We do youth programming, a lot of fun pop-up kids classes in the summer and throughout the year. We try to do, cross-generational learning as well. So we just try to honor people's traditions and home stories. And we're lucky that we can be flexible in that way. And we're always open to input. So we try to keep that culture of good conversation, good respectful conversation going, and make sure that people feel like they can always give us feedback.
Yeah, so many wonderful programs can be found there, and you're right there. It's important to listen. Like listening is a part of communication that it makes the understanding and kind of be able to serve the people where they at. So I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's adapting, changing the program and to meet everyone's needs. So I'm wondering, like you said, you always think about how do you reach the people that maybe are not there yet, or like the people who you're missing. So have you found like a efficient communication or engagement way to reach them?
No, I think maybe that's why I'm here today, to speak with you. I think anytime we meet storytellers, I feel like I have a good radar for storytellers. And it's like, okay, there's our walking grapevine. That's the person that we can sit down and have a coffee with. I think in general, working within community is, again, it's just like working in the garden or even just observing nature. There's that beautiful quote that nature never rushes, yet she gets to everything, right? And I think anytime I've tried to rush something in the garden, I always get reminded why that's a bad idea. You just can't rush good things, and community is like that as well. So whether we're talking about communication or building certain practices of communication in our space, or even just establishing class norms for a particular program, it's all about slowing down and going at the pace of where people are comfortable to be. And when you start to do that in a group, it can be frustrating and it can be really slow, like much slower than you ever thought. Or it can just, if things are clicking and there's this beautiful sort of alignment, things can just move lightning fast. So what I notice is it's when all of the stakeholders, and I don't know a better word than stakeholders, but when all those present that are meant to be involved in whatever it is that you're doing have what they need to be their best selves, that's when things start to grow. And there's agreements, and you're always coming back to those agreements. It's not like, okay, we got it and we're good to go. It's like, now we're going to practice it. And just like our own young children or anybody just learning anything, we're gentle, we're understanding. We hold to those agreements that we've made and allow people the space to come to them repeatedly, because then it becomes muscle memory. And if you're in a constant state of revision with it or reflection, I guess, not always revision unless it's needed, but just reflection, keeping room for that deep listening and that just letting it all sink in and readjusting if needed. I think that's where we get to the point where we're learning as a group. So community work can be slow and it can be kind of clunky, but I think those are the opportunities where we all have to grow and adapt and accomplish stuff together. I hope that answered the question.
Oh, that's good.
Get
Thank
off
you.
track.
Thanks for that reminder. So looking back at all of this, the community hubs, the gardens, the markets, the conversations, what's the moment that reminded you why all of this actually matters?
Wow. There's so many moments. It's too hard to choose. I think honestly, for me, if I could pin it on one thing in particular, I just love to see people, when people feel comfortable. When people are feeling at ease and comfortable in their own skin. And when they kind of go beyond that and have even maybe like a little bit of a glow to them, that's when I see people really smiling big. They showed up to make somebody else's day a nice day. It's like, okay, I can do that too, no problem. Even better, I think, is when I see somebody maybe not show up to do that, or not ready to learn something, and we go through some paces with stuff, or we role model, or we just give space. And then there that is. You just see, like, you see that active learning happening, or you see that self-reflection and self-awareness happening, and you get to be part of it. They're actually showing you or doing that with you. I just think it's pure magic. So for me, that's where it comes in, that it really matters, and we're all part of it. So it's like a beautiful thing to get to be part of. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. And finally, what's one thing someone listening today could do, big or small, to help build the kind of food secure, connected community you're working toward right here in Calgary?
Yeah, there's lots of things. Maybe I'll talk about two programs I haven't shared as much about within the Alex. So we do a lot of advocacy work. We really encourage people to be educated voters and understand what the issues are within their communities, and then act, whether on a municipal level, right on through to federal. So voting, becoming active in your political realm is really important. That's where community can really start to see some differences. That's where policy can make changes in a positive way for community. And then we are a small staff team here, and small but mighty. But what's even mightier is our volunteer program. And so if people are looking for something to do, or like I was long ago, looking for a little bit of connection, a little bit of learning, trying to put out those little fine root hairs to find something essential to their well-being, this is a beautiful place to spend some time and to share your skills. Everything from helping prepare the food for a meal, to serving it, to cleaning up, to helping with projects in the garden, to helping in our food skills and garden skills programming. There's just so many ways to come in and be part of it here, and everybody has something to offer. So we work with people to find where their comfort zone is and where they want to show up for community, but we could do nothing without our volunteers. So really grateful to them, and always looking for folks to come and spend some time with us in that way.
Yeah, definitely. That's the simplest way to start getting involved in the community, right? By volunteering. And Joanna, before we wrap up, I'm wondering if you have a question for me or for Good Creative.
Yeah, I have so many questions, but I don't want to double the length of your podcast. When we first met, Gail, it was around cooking and eating delicious food made by our community resident leaders that wanted to show up and share culture, shared their food rescue strategies, showed their ways of getting food out into the community, and really following their hearts right to the plate with other people. And it was a busy night, but I could tell that you gather stories and you share stories. So my question to you is more around what draws you to doing a podcast in particular, and what could a place like the Alex Community Food Center learn about potentially starting a podcast or feeding into other cool podcasts that talk about and spread good work and inspiration around food security work.
Thank you for your question, Joanna. So for me, honestly, a podcast is just like a tool or medium for me to be able to connect with people in the community, in the nonprofit community. I admire all the works, and I love to hear all these inspiring stories and be able to be a voice to share their stories to other people. Also, like what they learn, what would be beneficial for other nonprofits. So that was my intention. And my background is also in journalism. So I do like to ask questions. I always have lots of questions. We can just like sit and talk for hours. But for the purpose of the podcast, just hoping that whatever we discuss in each episode is beneficial for the listeners, that they can take parts of it that they can adapt to use for their own nonprofit, or to inspire some people that maybe want to get into this area. My advice for people, if you want to start a podcast, honestly, you just have to explore the ideas. Like, you don't have to worry about being perfect, right? It doesn't take much to start. I can tell you that. I'm just a one person production. You just need a program. You need some sort of like a small setup that would work best in your space. That's all you need. And I'm sure you already know a lot of great people that could be your guests. So just jump right in. And honestly, like, I didn't expect it to be this many episodes, but I'm so grateful for all this experience and all the connections.
Well, it's caught on for sure. Some of our staff members here, we joke about, oh, we'll save that one for the podcast. Like, we don't have a podcast, but we want to. And so it was really fun when you shared interest that you wanted to do this with us. I was like, hey, we're going to be on a podcast. This is great. And like, maybe it can be a good nudge for us, because there's so many stories. There's countless stories. There's so many really cool things that we get to witness and just do. We're just physically doing things. Like, we love to show some cooking and some gardening and just show what's happening around the space. We do that through our social media, but to take like a deeper dive, podcasts seem to be a really beautiful vessel for collecting those stories and sharing them out. So we're very honored that you've taken interest and that you've helped us share our story from the Alex Community Food Center out and beyond. And if volunteering sounds like too much, just come for a meal. We've got our program calendars on our website, thealex.ca and thealexcfc.ca. And yeah, just come in for a meal. Come say hi. I'm the really tall one at the door, so I'll be greeting you anyway. So,
Thank you so much, Joanna. And I'm looking forward to your podcast as well.
thanks.
So thank
We'll
you for
interview you.
sharing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time, your stories, and your heart with us today.
Thanks so
So,
much.
like, I feel inspired by the work that you and your team at the Alex Community Food Center are doing. Really, you guys are showing up every day to make sure that people have access to good food and people feel comfortable. Like, you creating the space that everyone feel like they truly belong, and that what small team big impact looks like in real life. To our listeners, if today's conversation moved you, I hope that you take Joanna's challenge to heart and take her advice and find one way to show up for food security in your own community, whether that's volunteering, spreading the word, or simply shopping at your local community market. It all adds up. And I will be sure to add the link to the Alex Community Food Center in our show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. And that's a wrap on another good story. Until next time, keep making stories worth sharing. Bye.